Cat Smith complaint as well now. I've actually got several complaints against Cat Smith. I guess I can't really go into them too much in detail. Well, even though this is actually part of the complaint, but not the written part of it. Cat Smith. So she is the chair of the petitions committee now. After that previous woman, McKinnell from Newcastle. Why is it always Labour Party? So here she is at a row of terrace houses, canvassing, right? Now she's put here, right? Today was the first day of the year I went out without a coat. That means it's officially spring. Alongside our fantastic candidate for Police and Crime Commissioner, Clive Grunshaw. Sure, I've heard of him before. Isn't Grunshaw always the Police and Crime Commissioner? Do they not have a mayor over there yet? Why do we have to have Tracy Brabin? We found lots of Lancaster voters choosing Labour. So are they actually going out for... so is this officially for the Police and Crime Commissioner? Or not? Or just Labour? It'll take more than a windy day to stop me after buzzing constituency Labour Party meeting. We hit the doors with enthusiasm at the Wire today. So I think this is illegal, and like I'm not saying that Cat Smith MP is not a nice person at all. I'm not saying that, but I think that it's illegal, and well, I think that it's criminal. I think it's criminal, and it's a shame, really. I read Hansard the other day, and I made a video, and there are MPs in Hansard lying in Hansard. They don't know the law. They're making false statements, incorrect quote. They're giving false information, false accounts, and lying while they're debating putting acts of law through and relying on giving information on what the law is or is not incorrectly recorded in Hansard. And I find this with the petition committee as well. They've got their standards and they're wrong. There's no legislation, there's no law in force or in the standing orders. And it's funny that she's like standing up in here, right, in the photos. They've got standards that are based on some old standing orders and dialogue recorded that discusses how fit petitions are to be received and how fit and far they are to be received, right? That particular dialogue, what was referring to how fit and far petitions are to be received, was referring to how eligible the writing is to make sense of, how decipherable the letters and words are, seen as in the 1640s and all probably until we had public schools, not everyone could read or write. People couldn't even write their own name. They had to put a cross or a mark. They couldn't write their own name, right? So you didn't even know who'd signed it, right? And some of them couldn't, like, write. They had to get, like, the local vicar or pastor or whatever you want to call it, priest, bishop, whatever, to write for them, because the clergy could write, or hire a scribe, just to write out, their petition. So that is what it's referring to in how fit they are to be received. Because, like, if you can't even read what it says on it, how do you know what it's... Well, you don't know what it says, right? And how far they are to be received is the same with, like, the Tumultuous Petitioning Act. It couldn't go further than the court the assizes or hundreds court or quarter sessions, how far is it to be received unless it was given consent? If it was over 20 signatures, that's how far it is to be received, as far as Parliament or even as far through to the King, right? Now, the problem with the Petitions Committee is they're kind of deciding, you know, how far they are to be received through as it processes through Parliament. But that doesn't mean to say, do you or do you not have a right to do it? Now, there was a law that you could not collect over 20 signatures unless you got consent. Now, that law is abolished. It was revoked in 1986. And there is no law for that, not on change.org, 38 degrees, or in paper. And what the Petitions Committee are doing is they'll take, you know, they're asking for 5 signatures, but no more than 20, for it to be allowed to collect more on the website. And they want 10,000 or 100,000, even though it can be actioned supposedly just on strong evidence, like in the Inquiries Act. It doesn't even have to. It's a legal case. You don't have to have anyone signing it other than you. It's the signatures are witness evidence. Yeah, evidence of if it's an important national matter. Yeah, you need to prove that the public are bothered. But if the case is like, you know, something that only needs proof, and that the government have got an obligation or a legal requirement to act without necessarily a large number of people behind it. For example, like if you prove something through evidence and that proves that this or that, the government, you know, like someone corrupting legal practices, but they don't want to accept those petitions because it's public petitions. Well, yeah, you got a right to you got a right for a resolution from the House of Commons. That's a right. There is a right to a resolution for the House of Commons, even through the Justices of the Peace Act and Courts Act. So it's a legal right to take it to the people, same as you've got a right. Really, there's a right to a jury in a civil case. And if you want to appeal the council's orders to the public at large, you can do it. You're allowed to. This is the thing. That committee cannot stop anyone collecting over 20 signatures on a petition in this country. It's actually, it's a subversion of the rights and liberties of the realm of the Bill of Rights. And because it is illegal to do it, in the Bill of Rights, it's illegal. Now, there isn't necessarily any penalty or punishment or whatever, but it says it's officially in English law an illegal practice. It's one of the illegal practices. It is an illegal practice. So that's corrupt and illegal practices. So the Petitions Committee are doing corrupt and illegal practices. They are. The Petitions Committee are breaking the law, and you can try. We can get legal action against them because that's what the Corruption and Legal Practices Act is for, and they're not allowed to evade charges. Like Lord Hanningfield really shouldn't have been in Southwark Crown Court, but it suggests that the penalties are like losing their seat in Parliament and not being able to stand again, and possibly even not even being allowed to vote again, losing their vote, like Jacob Rees-Mogg should be facing now. Ofcom and the Electoral Commission don't seem to be taking any action, or the Privileges Committee, even though they've admitted that he broke the law. Well, it's a corrupt and legal practice, what Mogg's doing as well, you know. So, but what I wrote about I wrote a little bit of some notes. I'm just going to say what I wrote here, right? Because this is important. I think it's this. There's two notes I've got on this, but we'll do this one first. So I've put, so people are generally not interested in elections until election time. And they don't get involved or pay particular attention except for turning up at the polling station. So here I'm just like, what I mean to say there is that now over 50% of people aren't turning out to vote, right? In Northern Ireland, it was less than 50% turned out to vote. And now it is definitely under 50%. People are losing faith in politicians and politics. I think at one point it was 2/3, but it's definitely under half now, right? So people are just they're not interested in, a lot of people are turned off by politics in general, right? So they're definitely not interested in politicians or what politicians are up to, or political parties, right? So out of the less than 50% now who are, right, a lot of them, they don't really have hardcore followings anymore, nowhere near as they used to do, like all these working men clubs, bowling clubs, snooker clubs, one-armed bandits, smoking inside, hardcore socialist labour clubs like, George Galloway and Jeremy Corbyn grew up with, right? It's very different now. People are interested in popcorn, hot dogs, pick and mix sweets, cinema, watching, the Terminator at the cinema, playing football, and, buying mobile phones and getting their nails done. People aren't interested in politics. So politicians have, those who are interested in politics, it is a lot smaller, narrower, collection of people. And because the public generally haven't been paying too much attention to them, they've been left to get up to their own devices, and they've been unwatched, and they haven't had that eye on them. This is like, Colchester Council watchers now turning up to figure out what councils are doing. Now they're putting videos up there, and they're turning up at the council meetings to find out what's actually been happening. And what's been happening is the corporate have got all the money, all the spare time, and they've literally infiltrated and taken over the councils. And then all those contractors and companies have been bought up by BlackRock Vanguard, and then everything in the shop and on the shop shelves taken up by BlackRock Vanguard. So we are at the mercy of all these financially powerful forces who busy themselves with getting busy with the world around us and planning it while we are being employed by them, and we're the ones who are doing it. But we're not really that interested in what we're doing, because we're just doing what we're told to do. So, but anyway, so few people are interested in law anyway. And out of those people who are interested in law, there's even less people interested in political law. I didn't even know there was an act called the Representation of the People Act, right? Until recently, recent months, right? I only just found out about it. And now, reading Hansard, a lot of people in Parliament don't even, either they're lying about the law, or they don't fully understand the law, or they're just blagging their way through it. And this is how we end up with this petitions committee the way it is now. And, people don't really fully understand their rights. So, and then political parties have, they just basically, they want people to turn up, get a couple of flyers out, get a little bit of promo out coming up to election time, turn up at the polling station, you get a card with your number on it, you hand that in, exchange it for a scrappy bit of paper that, has got a couple of square boxes on it, and then you tick it, put it in a thing, and that's it, right? It hasn't even got your number on the ticket you put in the box, so if they've got any queries about eligibility to read, how fit it is to be received, then they don't even know, they can't contact you to confirm who you voted for, and they put them aside and they're spoiled. So that's actually legal as well, according to some of the law in the 1800s. And I don't necessarily think they've revoked that, but we'll have to check. But at least up till not. From what I've read, it's looking like it looks to me like the foil counterfoil part is meant to have the number on it when you put it in the box, as far as I can gather. What we've been doing, at least in our polling station, the way they do it, is that it ends up in a box without anything on it at all, except one tick or whatever tick, right? And that is not going to help anyone out. There's some very serious things going on with the polling stations. This is what happens when people start eating pork pies and hamburgers and drinking beer and smoking and going along in a little daydream world and not really knowing what's happening, and possibly even these candidates as well, because they like their hamburgers and hot dogs and nail bars and mobile phones and sitting in the council chamber, smashing the hammer down, build me a McDonald's, build me a KFC, build me a Subway, build me a shopping centre, build me some Marks and Spencers, you know, bang, 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 smashing it, you know, humming along like a little buzzy bee, do, Labour Party, you know, we'll make some more of these, make some more of these, you know. That's it. Now, the problem is, now everyone's starting to, when we're starting to run out of space, and then, you know, people who are, you know, it's starting to annoy people now who, you know, they've pushed it, they're brimming at the edges of, you know, even the, you know, they've crossed the threshold now, and they're pushing into the areas of people who don't want it to be pushed into, right? And that's when, like, okay, like, we've had enough now, and then people are having to do something about it. So this is when you start actually reading. You have to read the law and find out about the law, right? So people let politicians get on with their own party business without much scrutiny. You have likely been left to carry out your work with little attention or scrutiny from the public, other than the party's own competitive activities against each other. So that's basically like, you know, there's meant to be these rules for running for government and so forth, but who's going to call them out on it if they're not running by the rules? Well, if less and less people are interested in it, then there's no one to call them out on it or watch them. And then they end up just making their own rules between them. And then the only person who's going to call the Labour Party out is the Conservatives, and the only person who's going to call the Conservatives out are the Labour Party, or Lib Dems. And as long as they... I think what they've ended up doing is they've all kind of consensually said, right, we're all going to kind of like, you know, turn a blind eye on this or that. But they've said, you know, as long as they don't, I think what they've done is, I think that there's certain rules which I think that they're not going to let each other break, but there's some rules that they're all breaking, and because they're all breaking them and it's to their advantage, I think what they've done is they're breaking the rules that really are preventing any independent or new people getting anywhere. But it's actually all right for them, because at least they say, okay, well, you know, this fight's going to be between us two, and, you know, we can't push the rules too much. You know, it's almost like it's almost like they've locked themselves in a wrestling match, I think, where they can't really let go of each other, because then the other one will lose. You know, if they grass each other up, they're both fucked. But it's the fights between them, and they're not letting anyone else get involved. That's kind of where we are with it, I think. I think they're both fucked. They're both criminal, that's for sure. Corrupt and legal practices up to the eyeballs. But they've definitely been keeping out anyone else out of the game. and I'll go into it and I'll explain how and why that is in a minute when we go through this. So, but now that social media has exploded, independent causes are getting some independent causes are getting massively funded by donations, right? There's now become apparent entanglement in petitioning to government and separate elections. So what I mean there is that the main two, anyone who bothered to vote, right, were usually giving their money to either the Labour or the Tory party, right? So either the Conservatives or Labour were getting usually any political donations were going to them. So they've had these massive fund pots, right? Which they were basically, but who else are going to use the fund pot against? So the only person the Conservatives really can use the fund pot to battle is the Tories, and the Tories to battle against Labour. So it's almost like they're paying for their own little wrestling match for fun. And as long as they agree on the most things, then they can have a good old dandy time. They even have their own little etiquette for each other. They even refer to each other as right and honourable and all these other fancy terms. It's such a darling, it's almost like the poet laureate. It's almost like, it's almost like a dancing the tango, isn't it, but not with Lib Dems, so... But the problem is now that since Facebook and YouTube and social media have kind of like given a platform for other people, and they've been a bit annoyed with what these two parties have been doing, now the parties made sure that they ignored and completely blatantly denied the existence of the Public Meetings Act. And that actually would have prevented Facebook and YouTube from making a lot of the controls they've been giving people, particularly when you combine it with the 1688 Bill of Rights as well on top of it, if it's for petitioning, right? They've got a separate Public Meetings Act part for election meetings, but it acknowledges there can be political... The Public Meetings Act applies for business meetings actually as well, or any proper meeting... but if you're petitioning, then you also get the Bill of Rights on top of it as well, for free speech. So you're probably going to be able to say anything you want. I would have thought similarly to Parliament. It's going to be among your peers in your meeting as if you were in Parliament. That's for sure. But still, it's illegal to break up a meeting or take someone out of a meeting. Particularly if they're not breaking any law or trying to prevent the meeting from continuing and trying to prevent anyone else from participating in it or giving evidence, sharing evidence in the meeting. So Facebook, and also it's an offence to provoke people, to encourage people to break up meetings, which Facebook and YouTube are guilty of doing that. And unfortunately, Nick Clegg is kind of global president. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, Clegg and Zuckerberg. I'd be if I won the lottery tomorrow, I would bring criminal charges again. Well, Zuckerberg's not in England, but Clegg's in America as well. But he won't be coming back here. I would prosecute through the High Court Mark Zuckerberg and Nick Clegg. None of this Senate bollocks with, Ted Cruz and John Kennedy with Zuckerberg in front of him, laid back in his chair. I would be bringing criminal charges against the Right Honourable Sir Nick Clegg and Mark Zuckerberg in the High Court or Supreme Court in England through the Corrupt and Illegal Practices Act. And he's not allowed into a court armed in Clegg. And he's only a night bachelor anyway. So he will be being prosecuted, would Clegg. And, he's not no Jimmy Savile. He's still alive. So there's no doubt about that. He would be facing charges for incitement and designing to break up and censor participation in public meetings and intending to provoke the whole world to do that, encouraging and provoking people to do it. They've been designing it by design of the platform. They wanted to change. They've been trying to change the social psychology and attitude so that people do that more. Encourage them, empower them. In fact, facilitate for them to do it. That they've given them the power to do it when the law doesn't give them the power to do it, right? It wouldn't be so bad if it was only in butterfly collecting group or snooker group or but when it is groups that are transacting informations and data in law, in civil actions against local council authorities, Labour councils, Conservative councils, Lib Dem councils, in an attempt to try and stop the council through a lawful due process, giving evidence, suggesting ideas, not just throwing money at judicial reviews and throwing money at GoFundMe, like proper ideas. Let's do a petition. Let's, collect signatures. Let's try and get a local referendum in the ward. Can you do that? Well, there's nothing that says you can't. You can suggest your own referendum, how it will be run, what the rules will be, like laying a bill before Parliament, right? According to the Local Government Act, you can have a ward referendum, costs £806. Someone puts planning in, right, to, obliterate a pony field. Some developer who's throwing around £1 million wants to build himself a new aeroplane engine factory. Half the village parades through town protesting to it, Cheryl Tyler, and then, she gets an award from the council, but then 5 years later, then they just take a crap on it and build another housing estate and then, build an industrial estate anyway. After everyone's got a bit tired of protesting, this is the thing. So you could actually, the thing is, these developers who have got far too much time on their hands because everyone else is busy making their widgets for them and making them millions of pounds, so they just, what else? What can you do with the rest of your day when everyone else is doing stuff for you? Oh, look, we've got half the town busy with their heads down making widgets for us, right? And we're making £1 million out of it. I'll go sit in my fucking sun lounger all day, don't have to do fuck all. No, actually, seeing though we've racked up about £10 million in the bank, yes, we can go into the council and fucking shove any old shit on the table. Look at this. There's £1 billion on the table there in the council. I own this town now. Seeing I've got nothing better to do with my day now that everyone in the fucking town's working for me, I'll start designing the town while everyone's got their heads down, This is the thing, I know, these people are actually actively involved in the Labour and Conservative Party, this is it. So, actually, no, whoa, just a minute. Actually, no. How many people live in this village? Only 1,000. Well, what's 5% of 1,000? 200 or something? No, not that's 20%. It's 5%. It's only 500, innit? 500. So you need 500 signatures. There you go. There's quite a, this is enough to justify having a referendum of all 1,000 people, right? And then we'll know whether the councillor should vote for or against it, when we've actually tallied the number up. This is it. I mean, if you've only got one councillor in a ward or three councillors in a ward, then how can the councillor vote for or against something when you've actually said no? Don't worry about it. We'll actually don't rely on the council to go in and put their hand up on our behalf. We'll get it down on paper. This is the thing. Same with the public consultation, but apparently they don't have to agree with the public consultations or not. So there are lots of solutions. Appeal to the council's already made a decision on it. Well, I don't agree with that decision. Oh, well, there's nothing you can do about it. Really? Oh, we'll have to get a judicial review. What's that? Well, actually, they can scrutinise the council, see if they, did things properly or made any mistakes or not, but you can't really change the decision. Bollocks. Well, why does it say here that I can seek a resolution in the House of Commons? We'll have that then, subject to annulment of the council's order. We'll go do that, see what the rest of the country thinks about it, and then you can use your GoFundMe funds. Oh no, why don't we go get the lawyer to do a judicial review? Yeah, if you want to chuck £10,000 at him, just chuck £10,000 at him. In fact, I'll roll up the notes and I'll put it in his pocket for him and fasten his shoelaces at the same time. And he can put a very complicated legal argument on that we may or may not win or whatever it is. Or I could just go collect 100,000 signatures on it, and get Parliament to knock it back. If 100,000, how many people's in the ward? How many people's in the county? This is it. If you get a return back from Parliament of 100,000 signatures, for all of England, don't think they should do it. This is it. But you can't do this in the groups because, they're already running around like headless chickens going, oh, the trees, we don't know what to do. We complaints to the council. We've got complaints coming out their eyeballs, the council. If you actually got some kind of freedom of information about all the complaints the council actually did get and rack them all up, then, maybe that would be some evidence to attach to something. This is it. But, the groups, right? 10 years on, okay, they've won some, they've lost some, but then, they end up losing it all. Because the council just, 10 years of, a few wins and a few losses, and then council can just write 10 years of protesting off in 1 second and say, oh, we'll scrap the whole thing, So, if you can't engage with the groups and help them, even if they don't understand it, that's why you're in a meeting, because you've got to teach them to understand it. You've got to teach them to understand it. They've tried everything else and it hasn't worked. It's not working, right? Now, if in law, you can't be removed from the meeting, right? No matter how many nupties are in the group and they don't get it, tinfoil hats, comments or whatever, right? They will understand it when I explain it to them, right? Some of them seem to be very adept at getting people to throw money at stupid ideas, particularly when expensive lawyers are involved. Oh, look, we've got 63,000 people here, £20,000 funding accounts all over the place, but still losing. Stonehenge tunnel, £60,000. Again, ridiculous points. So, there's technical arguments on the European Union of, protected ancient sites, ancient monuments, World Heritage sites. Like, yeah, but, what, here is the town, right? Here's a bit of paper. You know, it would be something if Conservative or Labour Party had to get a very expensive lawyer to, prove in court why they should be elected, why they have a right to be elected. It would be all right if the Labour Party or Conservatives had to raise £60,000 and Keir Starmer had to make a case for Labour's policies to a judge. Why these policies are viable, why these policies are right for the country, prove to a judge in a court of law why Labour Party's policies should be allowed into Parliament, into government. That would be something, not on a yes-no vote of, a bunch of electors, but, when it's political parties, then, tick a box, nothing complicated required, just a couple of amoebas, a couple of brain cells, if you can get the tick in the box, if it's not spoiled, and where's my serial number or my ticket? Oh, well, you can exchange that in for an invalid one, which is completely and totally unidentifiable. That'll solve everything. The counterfoil part, it's like in Crystal Maze, there's a load of silver tickets, so swap them in for gold tickets, I thought I walked into this polling station with a gold ticket with my number, unique ID number on it. And then I swap it for a silver one, and then no one knows who I voted for. This is it. But then after Rishi Sunak's finished with, everyone will have to turn up with an ID card. Now you can't vote unless you have a driving license or passport. Yes, but I had my counterfoil, my golden ticket. But someone made, Priti Patel made me swap it for a silver one. Or whatever, or Nigel Farage, or whoever you want, you can have who you want, and let's not upset led by donkeys. So, we're being swindled by these people. People aren't keeping an eye on what these political parties are up to, and a lot of the people who are in the political parties are that, who are excited with the process that they don't even really want to get into the legislation too much themselves, unless it's building and planning and they're, getting, planning things put through. So, but now we're getting these groups on the internet that have got 10, 20 grand to throw around, right? This is the thing. So we've got other political entities and movements that are starting to, and then they've got these groups on Facebook, 63,000 people who are we could sway all these people to vote for Reform UK, or we could swing all these people to vote for Labour or Tory. Then up pops the Conservative candidate, Sue Hall. Oh, here I am. Here I come to save the day, Sue Hall. Make sure these we swing these over to Sue Hall's side, and we can't have them going the other way. Seeing though that there are enough ULEZ people who signed the petition to outvote the Green Party, who came third in the mayor elections. Can't have those swinging over to independents, can we? So this is it. So these people now. People are getting interested in the law. People are getting interested in the law and what the politicians and political parties have been up to, because they're not happy with what they're doing, with, ULEZ and these 20-mile-an-hour speed limits and Stonehenge and other developments that they're doing. So people are now getting interested in the law. See, that's what I said. I didn't even know about the Representation of the People Act or any rules or regulations for elections. In fact, when I first started getting interested in the right to petition, I thought it was the same for elections, that they had loads of immunities, lots of immunities. Well, they might be, from the Bill of Rights, it seems like there are two ways you can look at it. The first way you look at it is that when any candidate in an election is petitioning the king to be elected, so they're using the right to petition, right? And if they were, then they'd have some kind of protection or immunity for doing it, which is why you get this special process for election petitions. But the other basis is that you could say that, no, an election is an election and petitioning is a petition. They're two different or separate things, right? That's the two ways you can look at it from the 1688 Bill of Rights. Either an election is a petition, but for an election, or they're two separate things, elections and petitions. Now, like I said before, the thing with the petition is you aren't getting the government to back you because first you've got to, you're acting independently in a cause, and you've got to prove that the public support it. And once you prove that, then the council will adopt it, and then they will be running it like an election or a referendum. So they'll be paying for it and facilitating it, the government. And that is when it has to be run fairly. So when you're doing a petition, in a way, you're acting equivalently to an unelected political party that's trying to get elected, right? But not for an election, for a matter, a case. But the thing with the difference again between the petition and the election is that everyone is going to be voting in the election. So an election is like a referendum. So it's going to be run. It is already being run by the government. But with the petition, it's not until you give evidence of so many people wanting it, right? That's the difference. And that's why the referendum and the election have got separate rules, because it's already being run by the government. And it's not... If there wasn't going to be an election, but let's say the Labour Party or Tories wanted there to be election and they were trying to get the council to hold an election, and they were independently acting as Labour or the Tories or whatever, or a candidate who wanted there to be an election, then they could get all the help they wanted. And whoever to help, they'd be trying to get people to help them. But it's already being run by the government fairly and equally, and they've got to try and get people to... All parties are going to be on the ballot, whatever. So they've just got to try and... Everyone is going to be asked by the government, but those political parties have got to try and get so many people to even vote for their party or the other party, but the whole thing's going ahead as a vote. With the petition, the whole thing isn't going ahead as a vote until you convince the government to put it to the vote, right? And for that, it's like a legal case, you know? Although the thing with a legal case is that both parties are entering it. With the petition, I don't think that you necessarily have an opposition until you get it officially taken on. You're actually trying to get the government to act. And you've got to obtain evidence, either in fact or in evidence of public concern in certain particular numbers which are required in order to get the government to take it on. So it's you can have legal cases. I think in America they've got like federal question. That's a case. You don't necessarily have to have a respondent. You know, it's now the thing with the election is that the funding for people who have entered and are on the ballot, they have to compete fairly, and they've got certain funds and official funds and so forth, and it's got to kind of like be, although some of them have got more funding than their opponents, right? Now this is that is really where the difference is. So And most of the political parties don't always have... Right. So in the elections, right, political parties don't always have, right, any councillor or MP. So that would be like Lawrence Fox. That would be like the Reclaim Party, Lawrence Fox. So Lawrence Fox is a political party leader. He's got an official registered political party. It's a political body. But he's a leader, but he hasn't got any councillors or MPs. Or well, he might have some councillors now, but he hasn't got any MPs, right? And then Andrew Bridgen came along, and then he joined the party. And then he got one MP, right? But then he fell out with him, and I think he's left. But so the thing is that in an election, the government or council is not allowed to help any of the parties, right? Or any of the candidates to get elected. Now, if your political party doesn't have any councillors or any MPs, then they don't have anyone in the council or government who can help them. So the council or government can't help them, right? So the party leader is not the council or government, right? And they could have loads of people, members of the party, members of the public who join the party, and they could all volunteer. And then he's got his agent, right, as Lawrence Fox. But Lawrence Fox is not an MP and he's not a councillor, right? He could have, 10,000 people behind him, right? Whatever, but none of them are members of the council or MPs, right? But with Labour, right? Labour have got lots of councillors and Labour have got lots of MPs. But then once they're elected to the council, they are the council, right? And once they are MPs, they are the government. Because the council is the council and the councillors. Hello. Here is a councillor. Councillor. That's why he's on the council, because he's got the councillor. So when you introduce yourself, hi, I'm Councillor Dibbins. Are you Councillor Dibbins? Yes. Of which council? Of Bromley Council. Simon Fulthrop. Councillor. Yes. Right? Introduce yourself. I am here. I am councillor. Nice to meet you. What can I do for you? Well, if you're in Bromley Council, you can get my lawn mown or whatever, get the potholes filled in, please. What can I do for you? What can I do for you? Well, he can do a lot of things as councillor, right? So if you've got a Labour Party and they are in an election, and they've got their colleagues who are all councillors, when they're helping them, the council's helping them, right? So that is a corrupt and legal practice. If their MPs are helping them, like Barry Shearman and it's Labour, then that is a corrupt and illegal practice because the government are helping them. But if you're Lawrence Fox and you don't have any councillors or any MPs and all your volunteers and your agent are helping you, then the council and the government are not helping you because you don't have any people on the council, right? Now, Labour Party have got hundreds of members, thousands of members, staff, secretaries, volunteers, a party headquarters in Newcastle upon Tyne. So why would they need any elected councillors or government ministers like Rees Mogg to help them? Because that means the council, us, and the government ministers are helping them. That is the government, right? The political parties got members coming out their eyeballs to go around doing ticketing and flyering. oh, but they're not, we need to have the champions. Oh, yes, get Tracy Brabin. Yes, Tracy Brabin will promote the Labour Party because she's a police and crime commissioner working for the government. Surely they'll get behind her. Yes, we'll get behind the government because she's already elected. So this is the problem. They're wanting their superstars, their celebrities to help them, but that's the council. They're on the council. They can't help them. It's like climbing up a ladder and getting someone to put their hand down and pulling them up, giving them a lift. Can no one on the top floor? No one's allowed to pull you up. Lift your hands up, grab hold someone's hand and pull them up. Tracy Brabin, parade, walking around the streets. Oh, I'll get them elected. I'll do some flying with them. I'm the mayor. Put my hand down and pull the candidate up onto the top floor, onto the podium. No, hand me up or downs here allowed, unless it's chucking money at them. This is it. So, I think they're breaking the rules because it says the council and the government aren't allowed to help, right? Through various acts, multiple acts. And the problem is that people have been distracted and they've kind of, they've slipped it in and no one's bothered and no one knows what the law is and they've just felt this is perfectly all right. Probably they thought they had some amount of privilege in there as well, protection under the right to petition. They could do what they want. But it turns out that they don't because it's different to petitioning the government. Because you've got to do it all yourself and the council aren't going to help you until you've actually got the evidence to justify them taking it on, and really you can get them to act by people signing it, and if they don't act in your favour, then you can go further and take the vote to the people, So that's the difference, really. But the thing is, some of these groups now have been getting a lot of. They're not political parties. This is the thing. A lot of these petitions, which have got one purpose, like clean up the river or save the squirrels or whatever it is, for that one matter, they're getting a lot of people behind them, right? But it's only for one cause, and it's not for an election, but they're starting to affect party political balance. And the parties are like, oh, this is a bit bad for us because, people might not vote for our party, So what they're actually doing is they are hijacking the petition, which is meant to be about one thing, and they're trying to make it be about the election, right? So then they can try and use those people to their advantage or the disadvantage of other parties in an election. But the problem is, what you get into with the funding of it is that all of the funding for each political party and candidate is meant to be through their agent and so forth. And, special appointed vehicles, appointed resources and so forth. And what's happening? This is when you get into Rees-Mogg now and GB News, right? And him himself getting a lot of extra publicity, which helps him his popularity as an MP, but not through the power of the people electing him and then paying him a not-for-profit wage, which isn't taxed because it's government. Well, it's not like our wages are. It's meant to be, it's public service, isn't it? So it's taxpayers' money, and it's meant to be, it's a not-for-profit organisation, and he's only there because he got elected by us, or else no one would be interested in him to talk about matters that he's there to answer for. And if we pull the plug on him, then he wouldn't be there. He would go out like a poof. But for someone else put fuel onto him and put him there, and he's burning off someone else's fuel, getting popularity for his own elected position, which, once his electors, if they pull the plug on him, he doesn't snuff out like a poof, he's still there. So, like, how the fuck's he still there if no one votes him in? You know, it's almost like passing the torch, isn't it? In the Olympics, you know, passing the baton, but it's not like, you know, being passed. It's not being passed. It's some other parties intervened and you know, slipped a baton into the game. You know, slipped a baton up his backside or something. It's not right. It's a foul. It's a cheat. You know, and that's against the canvassing rules and the broadcasting rules. So, you know, what's happening is that all of the election meetings are meant to be funded from the election, not over. Because it's separate law for the meetings for elections matters than for other campaigns and other business meetings. There's separate legislation, right? That's one thing to start with. For the meetings are under separate legislation because of the funding aspect of it as well, not just the fact it's political. You can have a political meeting that's not for an election. You can have a political meeting under the Meetings Act that has got the 1688 Bill of Rights as well added in, and one that hasn't got the 1688 Bill of Rights added in, but still under the Public Meetings Act, like a business meeting. So now the thing is, with the broadcasting, there's a lot of expensive devices, right? Mobile phones. Every mobile phone costs like, you know, up to, you know, a few £100, or some of these mobile phones with a special fancy camera on are like £500, £600, £800 worth of camera broadcasting live. You know, YouTube and Facebook are live, free. TikTok's free to join, but you know, you got to get 100 people. 1,000. You might have to get 1,000 on TikTok, right, before you can just go live. So if someone films Sue Hall live, just goes live, right? Sue Hall is not only going live promoting her campaign on the merit to the Conservative Party, who are chucking like, you know, £5 million donations here and there from fucking Business Dream World, right, at them, right? Sue Hall is getting a live broadcast to 83,000 people, TikTok or Facebook broadcast, which was only possible because the person holding the phone had to go and get 1,000 people to subscribe to their channel in order for them to be able to go live, and the phone cost £800. That is not only an £800 asset of equipment, it is also took 1,000 people to subscribe to that user. They didn't subscribe to Sue Hall. That user has got 1,000 people to subscribe to them in order for them to be able to go live, right? So if that ain't an asset, I don't know where the fucking agent's getting all that from, because no fucking Conservative agent got those 1,000 people to subscribe to Sue Hall's fucking go live TikTok. Tell you that, right? So I don't really know what the agent's playing at with his, you know, I'll buy you a fucking drink and a packet of dollar mixtures. Write that down in the Corrupt and Legal Practices Act. 3 hot dogs, 6 hamburgers, you know, 5 gold rings, you know, free. You know, there's even a turtle dove walking around in an inflatable, you know, dino costume or whatever. A chicken, you know, or whatever, chicken costume, chicken can, or whatever, walking around. So, you know, and then there's all, so people are throwing money, right, up to £20,000 at these political causes, which are meant to be for one petition campaign, it's stated one goal that people are giving money to, but then their money is actually then suddenly the funds, then someone starts using it to promote a political party in an election. You know, banners, £45 banners, £100 banners, £25 banners, Sue Hall. And that is a gift. It's a sponsorship, gift, donation, whether directly or indirectly. And this is when you're getting into serious serious trouble in the election, in the Representation of the People Act, particularly when you're starting, if you've got like a vehicle, a bus, private, it's not declared as the Tory bus, the battle bus, whose battle bus is it? This is the thing. So, they're starting to hijack. Now, the thing that there's something to do with the independent people in the elections as well. Once a person becomes elected using a title and taking an oath, they become part of the government employed by the public, right? So that's like, George Galloway. The title they carry represents the government. Fresh candidates are not yet elected, so they don't represent the government, right? So, I mean, look, if you look at Jeremy Corbyn apparently is a independent now. I know he likes the Labour, but apparently he's not in the Labour Party anymore. He got thrown out of it. He's an independent candidate, right? So Jeremy Corbyn, it's not a political party, so he doesn't have any members, right? He doesn't have any. He's only got his own electorate, right? Now, when Corbyn goes around, he's only asking people to vote for him, right? And anyone else who helps Jeremy Corbyn, he is an independent person. He doesn't have a party. So Jeremy Corbyn can get, his assistants are not elected members of parliament or councillors because there aren't any, because he's not in a party. And if anyone helps him, his agent or usually the public of Islington, right? So you can't have any, if you're an independent in Parliament, right, and you don't have a party and no one's a member of it, you can't really have any councillors or MPs going around helping you to get elected because there aren't any. You don't have a party and no members. You are solo by yourself, like Andrew Bridgen, and if you've got a political party without any elected councillors or MPs, then if you might have loads of members of the party, but if they all help, the council and government aren't helping because you haven't got anybody in the government or council yet. You're trying to get them in there, right? That's the difference. I think, and I really wanted to draw some attention to the £10,000 deposit for the London mayor. Also, political parties have many members, assistants, and staff, and when they are fully funded operating party, yeah, I mean, it really in an election, really, the Labour Party should have people going around flyering members of the Labour Party. We had that Bill Armour come round. Bill Armour, I think, was running for if he is running for election himself. The thing is, if you are a candidate on the ballot and you can be voted for, you can, you can ask people, even if you're already elected and you're running again, because you're the candidate, right? The candidate, look, George Galloway, right, is being elected for Rochdale. So he is on the government, right? But he can run for London Mayor, apparently, but when he's running for London Mayor, he is the candidate, no one else, him, right? So, yes, he already is a member of the government, but he is the candidate for a position, right? Now, really, no one in the government can help him to get elected. Now, he is in the government, but he's a candidate for that position. You can vote for him, right? Really, Galloway shouldn't really be himself helping his other party people to get elected, because that's like that's like pulling him up. The party is the party, right? But the party is not the government. It's like you've got the Conservative Party headquarters is not HM government, right? It's meant to be the party that's helping. Now, obviously, the party leader, but if your party leader is a member of the government and is not acting as candidate, they're not really supposed to be able to help them, because they can't really appear or act without their title. This is like Mog. This is like Mog being, it's difficult for Mog to be a presenter, because why would anyone point a camera at Mog? Because he's Rees-Mogg, the MP, if he wasn't, then he wouldn't be on TV, unless he was, a juggler or something. But this is the thing, even if he was a juggler, he's, he's like, almost like Johnson, isn't it? Boris, why are you pulling pints? It's just a bit of promotion. But what for? Well, it's promotion for the government. Why? So I'm the Prime Minister. I'm, trying to advertise pints. But why you, Boris? Well, because the Prime Minister should get people. Well, does that mean that if the Prime Minister does it, everyone will do it? Well, yes, because I'm the Prime Minister. Because of the Prime Minister. So, why don't you just get someone in Birmingham from Lidl to do it? Well, because they wouldn't all want to pull pints, would they? If I'm doing it, then they'll do it. But why, Boris? Because I'm the Prime Minister. They do what the Prime Minister says. Because it's good advice. Why are you shearing sheep, Boris? Well, it's a bit of promo. It's a bit of promotion. What for? The Conservative Party? For yourself? Or for the country? Well, all in one. I'm the Prime Minister. I get to promote myself. How can I not promote myself when I'm the Prime Minister? Well, because I'm now in the government. And when I appear, I'm representing the government. I need to permanently PR myself. But this is not a private broadcast for a private independent television station. No, it's just because I'm at the merit of being elected to be Prime Minister, so I can promote myself all I want in this Prime Ministerial position, or any other government position that I happen to have the privilege of being in, like MP. It's just a bit of self-promotion. I'm Boris the Prime Minister. I'm popping up all over the place. Like on his newspaper column or whatever, it's all there in the rules. It's anything that could potentially give an electoral advantage, and it doesn't have to be during an election. It can be before or after. Government cannot influence elections. So I do not believe that serving MPs or councillors or any staff employed by the government or council should be assisting in the elections or of their colleagues. Should be the candidates and their election agent and the volunteers and members of the party that form the political party, but not serving members because they act through the government or council position. Because it's the title that makes you the council or the government. And you can't not act with that title once you've been elected. It's almost like, it is like being on the scaffolding, isn't it? If you've climbed up onto the scaffolding, you've got that, I think it comes with the privilege, doesn't it, But what they're doing is they've got people with privilege who got the privilege of the council. But when you're in an election, you don't have the privilege of being assisted by the council. It's illegal to be helped by the council. So you don't have that privilege of being able to be assisted by. This is the thing with having a political party, you know. You know, the party and its members are helping you to get elected by voting for you, not the ones who already got elected, right? Because then they are acting with the privilege and advantage of the council and the title. They're always acting through. They're using the title. That means they're using the position. If you introduce yourself as, hello, I'm Councillor Simon Forthrop. What can I do for you? What can a councillor do? What does a councillor have the power to do? Oh, it's Tracy Brabin, the Mayor of West Yorkshire. Now she's the Mayor. She's got the power to do all sorts simply by hearing her name. Hello, I'm the Mayor of West Yorkshire, Tracy Brabin. What can I do for you? You know, oh, well, you know, maybe wave your magic wand and make a load of police officers appear. Now you can make leaflets fly out everywhere and people will definitely vote for us now that the Mayor endorses it. Tracy, well, I'm part of the political party. Well, yes, you know, but what can you do as Mayor? Oh, as Mayor. I'm not being Mayor today. Well, you introduce yourself as the Mayor, Tracy Brabin. Well, you know, I'll not be the Mayor for a while. You know, well, while you're not being the Mayor, who is? You know, if you're not being the Mayor today, what happens if there's an emergency, you know? So, well, you know, I think it's like that. It's almost like, you know, giving money to charity. You know, this is not for charity. It's for the election. You know, well, but whom? I don't think you can change colour like a chameleon once you have got the, you know, title on for that. You know, maybe a normal citizen. Yeah, when you're doing something, I'm giving this for charity. Now I'm selling something. Now I'm selling my shoes for charity. Now I'm buying something as a consumer. You know, now I'm doing a petition. But, you know, once you're a councillor, I'm a councillor and it's an election. Well, you know, the government can't help with elections. But I'm not being a councillor today. But you are. But you are a councillor. It's almost like, you know, I think that they're turning it off. But how are you turning it off if it's like, this is the thing with Galloway, right? I've just been elected into Parliament. Well, you have to turn it off for a minute. You know, can you unoath for a second? Oh, I swear allegiance to the King, and as by law, and, you know, so help me God. But, you know, tomorrow I'll have to renounce my oath. I'm sorry. I do not serve King Charles on a Wednesday, and I do not, so help me, I will not swear allegiance to Jesus Christ or God. So on Thursday, I'm going to help Satan instead win the election. So I will swear you back in on a Thursday at 6 o'clock. You know, it's George Galloway in Parliament, and he's a speaker and the clerk. You know, hold the book up. I swear allegiance to King Charles and his successors on Wednesday, Thursday, and Tuesday, except on Friday at 6 o'clock when I'm helping canvassing for the Workers' Party. And I swear allegiance to Almighty God, except every day except a Sunday when cinemas aren't allowed to open. You know, this is it. Or it's a part-time job, then, is it, George? You know, this is it. You know, why not just get the all the fans to, you know, the party, you know, secrets, you know, company secretary, Conservative secretary, £5 million donors, you know, your fans lining up on the streets, you know. But no, it's not the touch if it's not Tracy Brabin turning up on the doorstep with the Mayor, trinkets round her neck like, you know, B.A. Baracus, you know. Just said, put the treasure in the chest, Tracy, you know, put the treasure in the chest, you know. So I just have to take my jewellery off now. I'm just doing some canvassing, you know, for the Labour Party. You know, where's my chest? So I got my treasure chest. I have to take my medals off and my rings. Like Jimmy Savile, isn't it? Ah, Sir Jimmy Savile. Jingle, jingle, jewellery. Oh, it's jingle, jingle. You know, you put that fucking B.A. Baracus taking his fucking necklace off and his fucking rings, with Hannibal, I'll just take my jewellery off. I'm doing some canvassing for for Labour, I'll put my jewellery back in the chest now. Jimmy Savile, Sir Jimmy Savile, jingle, jingle, joy, joy. It's a suburb, this is it, with this representation of the people. I don't think councillors and ministers should be helping with elections. I think you might find a clause in there where they can do it, but it's the candidate. From what I've read in the Act, it's the candidate who is standing and their agent and an appointed individuals. Like, you can appoint someone to drive a vehicle and give people lifts, but I don't think you can appoint someone who's a councillor or a minister. It's other party members or people helping the party. They've got plenty of volunteers. If the Conservatives have got people chucking £5 million at the Tory war chest, I don't get why they clearly want it to be endorsed. Well, it's endorsed by the party. That's why they stand for the party. I am standing for Conservatives, the policies, right? They're not saying, I'm standing for Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister of England. No, the Conservative Party. It doesn't say, vote for Andrew Bridgen, the candidate for Rishi Sunak, does it? It says, well, it doesn't say Conservative anymore. It says Independent. This is it. So I don't believe because it should be the candidate and the election agent and the volunteers are members of the party that form the political party, but not serving members because they act through the government or council. I believe that this has become casual and too relaxed under the freedom of the absence of scrutiny of the law from independent persons. Well, hardly any independents are getting elected. Well, some get elected, but, few and far between. Some councils have got independent people who do win, but they're definitely not getting any help from existing members of the council, that's for sure. They probably could do with, getting someone turning up with, if an independent, you see, Jeremy Corbyn has got his electors who all are loyal to him, right? Jeremy Corbyn's got his electors, the people. The power of them, they put into Corbyn. But it's not coming from one party or another, This is the thing. I believe this has become just like really axio again, but finding many laws that are unknown by most people unless understood, like the Public Meetings Act, literally makes Facebook and YouTube removal of people from groups unlawful. Public meetings for elections are kept separate because of funding reasons. It's also what's a political meeting for an election. It's not a parliamentary meeting though. If it's a local council election, I still don't know whether an election is petitioning or not. It could be through the election petition rules. I think that if someone cheats in the election but they still won, like, you can cheat but still win. If you found out that even without the cheating you still would have won, I think that they still get elected and then they get privilege. I I think it's almost like that situation with Donald Trump in America, where they're saying, you know, can he serve as president from prison? But he can pardon himself if he gets elected. But then they were talking about state by state. But, you know, what is America without states? There is no America, is there? And I still think that if you get elected in a state, then surely it's equal to a pardon, because they're investing their power in you. The whole thing is now a mess. Yeah, Galloway is Galloway's definitely walking the line. He's like Johnny Cash. I walk the line, I walk the line. But he might be walking the line in a slightly bit of a zigzag. Galloway definitely is walking the line for sure. I don't know how far, if he's drunk or sober, I'm not sure. But he's definitely like Johnny Cash at the moment. He's Galloway. He's like, I walk the line, I walk the line. You wouldn't have thought they were Johnny Cash, though. He's not getting £5 million Tory donors, that's for sure. But he's definitely walking the line. Although the Tories are definitely over the line with that £5 million funding. But they seem like they need to yoke the strength of the ULEZ supporters. Maybe £5 million Tory war chest is not enough. They still don't have the 1,000 followers on TikTok. You know, if each of the Conservative Party, maybe if the members, I wonder if they're members of, if they've actually paid members of the Conservative Party, that might make it lawful. If they're actually members of the Conservative Party, I think they might be allowed to do it, but they're not all members of the Conservative Party. I forgot about that. They might be able to help if they're members of the Conservative Party, but I don't think a lot of them are, because a lot of them aren't really Conservative Party members. I've got my Monster Raving Loony Party membership here. I've actually joined the party, so I'm actually a party member officially. Official Monster Raving Loony Party. I don't think a lot of those useless people are though. There's something in that actually. I forgot about that. I've just remembered it. I'm glad I remembered that now. The whole thing is a mess. Independent candidates aren't affected because they have no other colleagues. Candidates standing for 2 positions will have an agent, but they will be candidate. Requires careful consideration. Right, so my main point, though, this video's ended up going for a lot longer than I wanted it to, and I wanted it to be a bit more, I wish I'd made it more concise. God, it's like 1 hour and 22 minutes now. If the London Mayor election is £10,000 deposit, right, to enter, and if candidates, they don't get their deposit back unless they get 5% of the votes. How is it fair or justified in the new social media climate when Sue Hall, and really they're from UK, as well as latching onto other non-election actions like the 80th. Basically, my battery ran out and it's like 3 days later, so I'm just continuing this conversation because I didn't get around to finishing it off. So yeah, I was just briefing about Cat Smith and the whole thing about elected MPs who, once they get into government, then they're like literally helping out their colleagues to get into government. Once you assume a government position, you're actually part of the government and using that title representing the local government, right? They can't really they can't reach their arms down from scaffolding poles to pull people up using the title of that position to help and aid, right? It's the political party. The political party itself, right, That's as far as I got last time, that word there. The political party itself, right, is the one that is receiving the funding to power the candidates and help push them with the votes onto the council or into the government, right? The election is, so when there's independent candidates, they don't have anyone to help them. And examples like Lawrence Fox, he doesn't have any MPs now without Andrew Bridgen, right? So Lawrence Fox cannot get any help from any elected MPs, because there aren't any on his party, so they can't break the rules and help him, right? But he's got himself, he's a candidate, and then he has an agent, and then he has people designated to act on his behalf, right? So this is why, I didn't know anything about it until I started looking into legislation, because no one's interested in the legislation, no one's interested in elections until it's voting time, right? And when you get councillors coming around knocking on your door to see you, if they are standing for re-election, that's all right, because they're the candidate, right? But if they are assisting a colleague who is the candidate, they're not designated as the candidate. They are effectively, right. If you are a candidate and you are on the ballot, you are excused from being a member of the government or council because you are actually in the election, right? But the council and government are not allowed to help you get elected, right? Your political party helps you get elected, but none of the political party who are already on the government or on the council, because that would be the council and government helping you. And when they appear with their titles, they are appearing on behalf of the council. This is what Simon Falthrop's doing. Oh, I'm Councillor Simon Falthrop. How can I help you? Well, this is it. If you don't want to represent the council, don't get sworn into the council, right? The council, this is it. This is why elections have got to have these tight rules and regulations. Elections and referendums are something being run by the government or council on behalf of the government fairly, officially. A petition is a case to a court or to the council or to the government independently, and you have to get all the help you can get in order to make a case so the government or council or courts take on and make an action. And that action could be to have a referendum or election, right? But once you get the election or referendum, you don't have to go around collecting all the signatures yourself, because it's all being facilitated and provided and paid for by the government and council, which is why they are not allowed to act as councillors or MPs to intervene or aid and abet. It gets quite complicated because, you've got political parties and councillors and MPs and members of political parties and on the council. It's their area of operation. It's their thing, politics. But what you actually find out when you get into it is that what they're actually doing is, to put it in the simplest form whatsoever, right? They're like on the council or on the government, and they're dropping rope ladders down and letting their pals grab hold of them, and they're pulling them up and helping them, right? You can't pull the rope. If you're Councillor Simon Falthrop, right, you can't have Sue Hall holding onto a rope to get elected into mayor, and then Councillor Simon Falthrop pull her up the rope, like, while she holds onto it. But he's not allowed to pull her up into position, right? And she's the only one who can hold. Once you're holding onto the rope and you're a candidate, right? Now, the people, the electors, are the ones who are, voting, right? So it's probably quite, I don't know whether or not, I think that the councillors and MPs can vote in the election, but, I think they're allowed to have a vote, but the vote in the polling station is not these things that are. They can help by vote. I think they can help by voting if they've got a vote as a citizen. That's what they can do. But I don't think that when they're, you see, they're appearing. When you walk into the polling station and put your ballot in the box, you're appearing as a citizen. And what the thing is, what the elected MPs and elected councillors want to do is kind of pretend that they're not the councillor, or pretend that they're not the mayor, or pretend that they're not an MP or the Prime Minister or a member of the Cabinet. They're waltzing around with these titles like saying, oh, I'm Councillor Simon Forthrop, or I'm the Mayor, or I'm the Prime Minister, or I'm Lord Chief Justice, right? They like the title when it suits them, but then, I'm Simon Forthrop, I'm giving you advice on voting in the election, and come on, let's get some banners out, and, let's use everyone's extremely expensive mobile phones, £800 broadcasting equipment, and their 1,000 subscribers they've got, to help Sue Hall get elected, which is resources that have not been paid for by her agent or the political party. And the thing is, I said earlier, I got a graph for this, and, in the London Mayor election, there's just over 2 million people turn out to vote. And there's around, near enough, about a quarter of that, nearly 500,000 people, signed up to Stop ULEZ petitions, right? So I think there's, they've got numbers that are about a quarter of the whole people who bother, not the whole, all electors of London, because half of the electors of London don't come out to vote, right? So, but out of the ones who do, 2 million of them, just over 2 million of them who bother to turn out to vote, ULEZ command about equal to around 1/4 of those numbers, right? Now, that's a lot more than, like I said, the amount of people who vote for Green Party. In the last mayoral election, according to the figures, right, the Green Party, who came third, ULEZ have got more people behind them than what the Green Party had behind them in the mayoral election. So it's really a lot of people. Now, when you've got big amounts of funding and a big sway, they are going to be able to swing it for whichever political party can get them on their side. They're not on the side of Labour, but, the other parties, therefore. But the thing is, what about the independents like Lawrence Fox? What about the independents like, people who aren't even on a party? They've got to pay £10,000 to enter, and if Stop ULEZ are getting everyone to support, Sue Hall, then that's losing a lot of independent people their deposit if they don't get votes, right? And that's why it's unfair, because, Sue Hall has been aided and abetted, towards their funding. And the thing is that you've got all these people, right, giving the Tories donations, like, these £5 million Tory donors, right? These £5 million Tory donors who are giving to the Tory war chest, right? Sue Hall's running for Conservatives, right? Why aren't they funding a campaign? You see, the thing is that I think that, these 83,000 people strong Facebook groups and the power of the Stop ULEZ petition campaign, really, that is probably worth more value than, a lot of the Tory donor money that they're giving in, because, how many conservative, even if Rishi Sunak, sponsors Sue Hall officially through the Tory war chest from Conservative Party headquarters and throws up a load of billboards all around London, right? And chucks a load of YouTube adverts in, like Keir Starmer did for, Tracy Brabin in the West Yorkshire mayoral elections, right? Chucking money at it. But even with those billboards, right, on TikTok, to get enough broadcasting to go live and get people to watch you live, you've got to get 1,000 people to subscribe to your channel. That's almost like, you know, to consent to the cause. And you're using those votes of people to consent to stop you, Les. That's like an asset that it doesn't really have a value on it. I mean, what value can you put on getting people to subscribe to your particular channel? You can't pay money for that. You can't say, oh, I'll buy a mobile phone and I'll go live on TikTok. You can't buy it. You can't even buy that. You can't even say, oh, you know, unless someone gives you the mobile phone and you change their account name. But there's no value on that, because in order to do it, you've actually got to get people to like you, to kind of like consent to your channel, almost like sign a petition, say they'll watch you, subscribe. So those assets are not, there is not even a financial value on them, because they're like subscription, like, and that you're getting into like Group 9 political party subscriptions and so forth. I don't know if you make money out of it as well. But then there's all TikTok and YouTube and Facebook live streaming. What about the tax money on that? They don't class people as political causes, and we're not going to be paying tax on all that profits from streaming. There's all that as well. You know? Non-election actions like, oh yeah, so there's 83,000 people in Facebook groups for Stop You, Les, that are blatantly gifting donations in many forms: signs, banners, billboards, promotions, advertising, travelling, meetings, use of vehicles, facilitating, you know, like there's Kingsley Hamilton's bus as well, directly and indirectly. I mean, some of them are actually indirectly helping Sue Hall, and some of them are directly helping Sue Hall, right? In front of the cameras and equipment for filming that is not paid for by Sue Hall or her agent or even Howard Cox, who's going for reform, right? And Howard Cox and his agent haven't gone around getting people to subscribe to those independent live streams on people's mobile phones so they can then go live and use that massive asset to get promotion. This is exactly what Jacob Rees-Mogg is doing through GB News, but they're not calling him out for self-promotion at someone else's expense, which helps him himself achieve more popularity, even though he's only got the grace of God to be there through the power of the electorate, or else GB News won't be interested in him. It's like switching a light bulb on and off, but someone's wired another into him. So when his electorate disappears, he'll still be there, you know. But while he potentially he can go in the law, it says if it could potentially affect an election. Well, that means that if he runs for election again next time, that TV program has contributed towards it, you know. We are throwing away the law. We're throwing away the law because what I think is that if you read the law, the Representation of the People Act and the other acts, they're not allowed to do these certain things, and they're doing them because no one was paying attention and they think it's casual, no one calls them out on it. The Electoral Commission should have been, but they only turn up now, really, when they're counting the ballots, you know, and so forth, and no one reports it. No one reports in on it. And no one knows the law. And the Electoral Commission are a bit dozy now. They're this new. It's like what that school teacher said on Lawrence Fox, you know, on Reclaim. You know, when he's in at school. He's the headmaster. When he's in the canteen at school and they're having conversations in the staff room, there's no intelligent conversation. There's no critique. The women don't want to talk about critique of things. They just want to talk about what was on morning TV, Jeremy Vine or Loose Women. They don't want to critique the education system, the work, the schools, the subject. They don't even really want deep conversations. This is because of the culture of like, thumbs up, thumbs down, like, don't like, and the whims of mobile phones. Anything that you don't like, you don't have to look at or, you know, put up with. And this is the thing about complaints and things like that. And also, they are losing, the intellect has been lost. All of the food that we've been piling in and not getting strong microbiomes, and with all the McDonald's foods, have just been making people dumb. It's almost like, blunting people's brain cells effectively. And I don't really think that, and what happens with the MPs when they get introduced to politics is they're groomed, chaperoned by, long-established MPs like, God knows Barry Sheehan and all these councillors who've been in, part of the furniture, but part of the crooked furniture. It's okay, we do it, everyone else does it. And they're being lied to. It's like this with Cat Smith, who's meant to be the chair of the Petitions Committee, with their corrupt, illegal standards which don't exist in law. They claim, standing orders were passed and resolutions of the House. Yeah, and what those resolutions actually mean is based on a lot of the Quarter Sessions law for processing petitions and getting it heard, and the assizes. And, when you lay evidence in court, you can't reject evidence. You've laid it, if they don't think it's valuable or whatever, that's their problem. That's part of the order and judgment. But you don't reject it. You can't reject it. And they're also trying to manipulate and change people's statements as well. Change the wording on their petitions and so forth. They can actually, where that comes from, that Quarter Sessions Act, it says that they can correct spelling mistakes, right? So if you spell something wrong or something, but not change your statement or the thing that you're asking for, your appeal, like if you spell, bananas as bananas, then they can correct it. That's to the extent of what it is. And, things that you can and can't ask for through the government. If you wanted to ask for, the Prime Minister to do a handstand for PR, there's actually nothing stopping you doing that because, Boris Johnson was pulling pints and shearing sheep when he was Prime Minister just for a bit of publicity. So, I'm the Prime Minister, a bit of government PR. So, you could get Rishi Sunak to jump out of a plane in Union Jack boxer shorts like Die Another Day with a parachute for PR if you wanted to petition for him to do that. Really, petitions are creative. The thing is, there's always a department of the government and there's always a way and means, if you can think of it, usually, within this country. Now, you might be pushing it sometimes, but like I say, the government haven't yet banned the Monster Raving Loony Party's policies or them standing in elections yet. So they're asking for trouble with petitions, but, this is it. I am... The worst thing about the Petitions Committee is that they're not giving support or enforcement when it's a proper legal proceeding. And it's a serious matter. We've got a right to appeal council decisions to Parliament and take it to the nation, get signatures of the peers, even try for referendums. We're getting denied referendums in local councils. These political parties have taken over the country. And another thing that's important that I've found out, they got rid of grand juries and juries in civil cases, which really would have got control over building and planning, judicial reviews, challenging the councils on things, and the control of businesses and the size of the industry and all these chemicals and the whole thing that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is kind of like opposing, the toxic and all this 5G towers and all this kind of stuff. The local referendum, really, there's nothing stopping you in law having a ward referendum. It's effectively like going to the grand jury, but for council matters, not for civil court matters. And a lot of these times that, judicial review and so forth, you effectively could have had a jury on that, and and they didn't have to decide it on point of law. In Magna Carta, it could be decided on point of law or judgment of the peers and purely on their opinion, which is for or against, as long as it's a lawful due process. That's what we're losing and we've lost grip of. And why the council are trying to control everything over regulation, as if there's some sort of corporate entity. Even in the Companies Act 2000, or I've just read an act, I think it was 2000, was it 2000 or 2006? But there's lots of regulations for companies and businesses, like on voting and polling within the business. Members of the companies and businesses can vote on things. There's even a clause in that whereby you still got political rights for petitioning, and that's where it comes into, like trade unions. And I think Double Down News were doing something on that when they were talking about, like Amazon staff, petitioning for they saw that in the companies and, unions. That's how it figures into it. I've got a lot of arguments with companies at the moment who are just refusing service or refusing to take the VAT off when you're not entitled. Well, it's illegal to charge VAT for someone who's doing it for a political body, a petition. It's not illegal. You can claim VAT back from government, but you're not supposed to pay it in the first place. And it's confirmed now from the government that, you can have bodies, political, charitable, religious, educational bodies that don't have to register for VAT and don't have to pay it. Some people were saying that it didn't exist unless you get registered, but they're wrong. But the charitable, the religious and the educational bodies aren't a petition to Parliament or the House of Commons. They're different. It's actually illegal to be held to commitments of the VAT Act 1994. If you get charged VAT, you shouldn't really pay it back after. You shouldn't have to pay it in the first place because it's an illegal charge. I know you're claiming it back after, but I mean, this is like, elections ought to be free. You didn't pay for postage for elections. Candidates got free post until Cameron sold off Royal Mail, and now they pay for it but claim it back. That's still illegal because in the Bill of Rights it says elections ought to be free. Now, it means you don't pay at all. So, fair enough claiming it back, but really, you shouldn't pay it in the first place. That's another hindsight, little niche like that of David Cameron. I'll sell off Royal Mail. Well, what about the elections using the mail? Well, they can claim it back. Well, no, but it's illegal to pay it in the first place, David. How are you going to get around that? To hand the money over to them is against the law. Even if you give it them back, you're breaking the law. Well, so giving it back again. Yeah, but you broke the law, David. And you sold off our mail, all of the assets of the country, took the grand juries out when the people are making decisions on things. We're being hijacked, we're being hijacked by these corporate prep school pricks, really. And then they're taking away the actual laws from us with company policy, consent, submit, accept. It's all wrong, It's a shame people like, Cat Smith are misled by Keir Starmer and, Tracy Brabin in these political parties that are, Labour. They're being severely misled, like Gordon Brown. Gordon Brown, the champion of England, yes, constitutional reform, yes, preserve people's rights. Well, why don't you give them the grand jury back then, Gordon? Why don't you give them the why don't you give them the jury back in the courts? And it's Labour Party. They're opposed to the Tories. Power to the people and to the workers. Tony Blair and Gordon Brown wouldn't know what opposing the Tories was if they were, stood on top of them or jumping down upon their head, right? Gordon Brown wouldn't know what rescuing or saving democracy or the country was from the Conservatives. Gordon Brown might as well have been loading up the back of David Cameron's car with the gold that they sold off when he was Prime Minister with his constitutional reform frickle, right? Because people like Tony Blair and Gordon Brown who think that, you can't identify a person by looking at them, recognising them, it's Gordon Brown. Hello, Tony. I haven't seen you for a long time. Can you prove that you're Tony? Get your digital ID out. I don't believe you are Tony. You might be an imposter, They can't even recognise their own friends now without digital ID. We're not devices. We're human beings, There's something wrong with these people. I've gone off subject now. Yeah, they glorify rule breaking, do MPs. You know, they do glorify it. I mean, Parliament is corrupt and you can't take it seriously. Literally, I've put down here that they're following the Pied Piper into the cave of corruption, which is what they do with political candidates. You know, these veteran veteran MPs and councillors do get them to the new candidates. They mislead them. I also made a video yesterday that I found lies in Hansard, blatant truth and lies, which I've documented as an example. Yeah, that was in the Public Order Act 1986, which repeals the Tumultuous Petitioning Act. Someone was saying that there was no such rights for public meetings in there when there is. There's an entire act for it, the Public Meeting Act 1908. It's all there. Just completely lied in Hansard. They're just lying in Parliament all the time. Lies, 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 lies. You know? You can't trust these people in government at all. So legislation is... Yeah. And, you know, Nick Clegg, who was Deputy Prime Minister, went and got a cushy job at Facebook, which is breaking the law in public meetings on a daily basis, encouraging it as well. It's actually Clegg himself and Mark Zuckerberg themselves and YouTube, Neil Mohan, they're actually encouraging, inciting and providing people tools to break the law. So they're guilty of the offence as much as anyone else. And that's not being treated as a third party in publishing or anything. They are actually designing the platform themselves to encourage people. You don't have to be the third party. It's the person who's doing it. And the MPs are all involved, you know, Sheryl Sandberg meetings. I'd love to have been in that Sheryl Sandberg meeting, you know, with the Department of Culture, Media and Sport, Select Committee, Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, you know, Lucy Fraser, when they're talking about, you know, Facebook. Say, oh, by the way, do you know that Public Meetings Act makes half of this platform illegal and unlawful? And by the way, you're all like consenting to it now and plotting and designing and scheming it. That means you're actually guilty of the offence as well, you know. You really could take these people to town if you had, you know, Donald Trump's wasted, you know, Trump and his lawyers and all his legal cases are over stupid, ridiculous things, you know. I mean, Russell Brand is also a disappointment. He's worth like 40 odd or more million. What is he doing with his lawyers? If I was Russell Brand for 1 week, right, you know, half of Parliament would be in prison. And they won't have privilege to save them either. Through lawful due process, they would be in prison. You know, there's so much being done illegally by Parliament, by local councils, you know. We need to be getting juries back and grand juries, you know. Effectively, you know, Gail Bradbrook and Extinction Rebellion have been talking about these citizens' assemblies, but you wouldn't actually have needed those citizens' assemblies if you'd actually still have the grand jury and juries in civil cases, and if we'd been using local referendums in wards, because you don't need a citizens' assembly, because, you know, all these matters of, you know, what's happening in local communities would be lawfully judged by the majority, not the councillors and these political... The political parties aren't a very good thing, really. It's not fair that the other candidates have to find £10,000 to enter. Well, that's for the London Mayor. For the London Mayor election, that's what I've said. They can't even run for mayor unless they put up £10,000. But in law, elections ought to be free. So that £10,000 deposit is actually another illegal charge, like the Royal Mail charge when they're claiming it back after. But they're trying to stop people entering, or people who might never get voted for, or how many people can enter. Maybe they should, you know, maybe it would be a bit ridiculous if you had like 100 people entering. But you know, I think in America they do those rounds, don't they? Who's going to stand or whatever. There's got to be a way to do it where it's not money, you know. You know the proper way to do it? I think the proper way to do it is by petition, like freedom of subject of petition. And that's how they invented the American Constitution. Like, everyone will turn up and write down the name of the person they want to vote for. And then it's the government's problem having to, make sure they know whose name means what and sort it out. That's their problem, right? But what happened in America is they started getting these tickets, and the party started throwing out like a forecast, a suggestion, like, oh, why don't you vote for this team? We'll put a dream team together, vote for this. That's the ticket, right? But really, you could write different names down for different positions and who you wanted. But they started persuading people to go for their suggestion. The party puts forward, oh, we want this as was team that we want. But you could actually cross vote at one point. That ended up getting hijacked by political parties again. It's just people taking control and power. It's just like the conquest and like the Roman invasion and civil war. It just through, sneakily and slowly changing things without people pulling them on it, Mayor election needs to be invalidated. It's total criminal affair now, not fit for purpose. Well, that's true. It is. It's become criminal. Well, yeah, this is the thing. Kingsley Hamilton, right, can afford to enter the mayor's election. He can afford the deposit, and he probably get more votes than the Green Party going on the figures. The figures of people who turn out, the number of people who turn out is like just over 2 million, and about 1/4 of that number could potentially support Kingsley Hamilton because they've signed all the ULEZ petitions. So he could stand. It's not ridiculous to suggest that if Kingsley Hamilton did put up the 10 grand and enter, he could potentially get more votes than the Green Party. If all the people who support Stop ULEZ voted for him, he could come third place behind the Conservatives and Labour and not lose his deposit. That's how much sway they've got, and why I think that the assets are being used unlawfully. And the thing is, I've donated to Stop ULEZ, but I donated to Stop ULEZ and I donated to the petitions. And I kind of thought it was a bit of blackmail, really. But government did act on the petitions and tried to put a bill through, but the Labour blocked it. But, then you've got Labour and Tory manipulation going on. Again, they want it to be decided on the mayoral vote because they want to get the mayor in. If Labour said, oh, yeah, so many people have signed this petition, but that petition was actually supposed to provide an annulment to a lot of the fines, That was the main thing while you're pursuing it. And I think a lot of the, you could say, well, it got rejected, so then maybe the fines are reimbursed. But for a period, there shouldn't have been any fines. That's the thing, right? And the fines that were given should have been annulled. But obviously, after the Labour rejected the bill and the resolution was blocked, then they could carry on resuming giving the fines out. And the ones that had been fined probably could have, reverted back to how they were. But for a period, I don't think they should have been giving those fines out. That's one thing. Yeah, I have been helping them out because I don't like it when things are being done wrong and unlawfully, because I want to prove their political rights and immunities, because they really are pursuing these casework and resolution. But now when I'm learning about rights, I've started learning about elections. And they aren't to get mixed up, petitions and elections. Like a police investigation, an election petition. Well, you can call for an election petition, but I don't know how they're going to get all the evidence of what all the candidates have been up to and all the broadcasting and all the assets that have been used to assist one side or the other side. But I think when it's such a large weight and it can affect some of the other candidates losing their deposits, it really is unfair at that point. This goes on to this really, you're getting into the Rees-Mogg subject as well. Yeah, what's the point in having the law if people aren't going to follow it? And also people getting removed from meetings on social media. People are like trying to complain and educate people when they're having meetings over these matters, and then the admins are like removing people or censoring them when they're giving, like, this video is evidence, right? I know if I put this video on the group, he'll probably allow it, but I'll get some nupty on there coming on with some stupid tinfoil hat comment, or really uninsightful, aren't interested, don't really understand it, and don't want to listen to us, you know, and people end up, you know, getting removed or censored, particularly in local campaign groups. So, you know, that's Mark Zuckerberg's fault. What Nick Clegg should have done, as soon as he started working at Facebook, is made groups and accounts and pages that are a political cause, cannot, you know, you don't have like whimsical buttons on them. Because you can actually get Facebook involved in things, but, you know, you do need to censor and control certain things to a certain extent. But in political groups, you've got certain rights. So it should have figured those rights in and made it a lot harder for people to be censored or removed, or at least give the admins warnings and advice on rights and so forth. And there's not really any way to properly appeal it. There's not even really any way... So you can't even bring a civil action against the other person, because once you're blocked, that's it. You can't even subpoena them. You know, you can't even subpoena any of these people or take court action, because it's almost like these big platforms want people to block each other and fall out and not be able to get any assistance or help from the law, you know. You know, sometimes the police get called around on things, but it's very rare. You know, I've never been able to get them interested in anything. So these people who do call the police through social media and get them round to people's houses, they must play a violin or tell some tales on the phone and be patient to get through. It takes you half an hour to get through, you know, and a lot of them can't be bothered. But what about when you're actually doing an investigation yourself and you actually got evidence on there that's by petition and you're getting it removed unlawfully? You know, this is the thing, which is another thing against YouTube, using that Public Meetings Act as well, and the right to petition, and the Town and Country Planning Act, 1919-2007. Yeah, when they're having meetings in certain places, they're meant to be only special places that are like the schools, because there's a special setup for the funding for schools for elections when they can hold meetings, that it's not actually funded or paid for by anyone else, like a pub or a hotel or, you know, someone's house or something like that. Because really, if you're having a meeting in someone else's house, you're incurring charges for lighting. This is the thing that they don't understand, right? On Facebook, you know, the whole Stop ULEZ group. If you go into a pub and you're having a meeting about the election with Howard Cox or Sue Hall, that meeting is being lit by electricity. And who's paying for it? And who's paying for where's the tax going for that? And who's going to claim the tax back? You know, is a landlord going to say, like, oh, use, like, you know, 18 minutes, 20 seconds of electricity, you know, what's 20% of that on that? I'll have to claim it back, you know, through the election commission, I mean, through the agency. This is it. I mean, that's what you get, what you're getting into with things like that. I'm sat here now at home, and I'm using some things for the petition campaign. I'm using electricity. You know, this is the thing with that claiming VAT back for the petitions. I could go into that. I'm using light. This video that I'm recording now is complaint to the Electoral Commission. It's not for my own profit. It's not for business purposes. And it's not for my own gain as an ornament on the shelf that I'm going to benefit from. I've got to make this complaint on behalf of the people of England to the Electoral Commission. I'm doing duty service like the police, right? I could, I've got to charge this mobile phone up to talking to it. I've got to have lighting to see, when it comes back to claiming VAT back on things, and I've got a kind of Red Bull here that I've got to, what happens if my body's going to run out of energy and I can't speak? I have to have this drink to give me energy to talk. This is like Rishi Sunak giving bacon rolls out, to homeless people for charity, I could claim food costs while I'm having to do all this. And I'm meant to be ill. Well, I am ill. Not meant to be ill. I am ill at the moment, still ill. But you can't do nothing. You've got political rights to be able to complain, or you can't function as a living, breathing human, I mean, how do you even pick the phone up to speak to your doctor if you can't do anything to say that that you're still ill or whatever? You've got to be able to act at some point. Political causes are completely and totally protected because they affect, what about the World Health Organization taking away our rights or trying to? I had to complain against King Charles for that. Tess Lowry got those 116,000 signatures or whatever, and Mark Franchois did that, got debated in Parliament. But I'm like, whoa, just a minute. Charles is actually, he's got responsibility for safeguarding our rights, and he was popping up in the meeting. He's repping. Charles is popping up repping at World Health Organization and at World Economic Forum. He's popping up he's popping up with the WHO. Hello, I'm Charles. Are you coming to take our rights away? I was to do a bit of repping. Well, that's having a meeting with him then, yeah? I was doing a bit of repping for the UK. Well, do you know that while you're repping for the UK, you can tell them that they're not allowed to take his rights away? It's against the Constitution. It's actually an offence. And impeachment by Parliament cannot be pardoned. I had to complain about Charles. That Tess Lowry, it's actually a complaint against Charles, really, that Tess Lowry petition. I complained against him. He's breaking the law of the constitution of the country. It's subverting the liberties of the realm. You're not allowed to give us rights up to foreign entities or organisations, even if we're a member of them. What else have we got? Morgan-Ofcom. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want to go into Morgan-Ofcom again. It's the same thing. He's getting electoral advantage and popularity from a private broadcaster. It's giving him an advantage. And it's all to do with the money as well, the money involved in it. The YouTube servers are situated in America. The YouTube servers are situated in America, and American equipment is used in getting Mog onto YouTube. He's still defying it. I don't know how this is still going on. Mog must be prosecuted under the Corrupt and Illegal Practices Prevention Acts, or what's left of them. I'd prosecute him if I had the money. There's nothing that I would, be more encourageable to do if I had the money. I'd love to prosecute the Petitions Committee, MOG, the political parties. And then when we'd, after you finish prosecuting them, then you can start getting, some of the country's functions repaired, like restoring grand juries and juries in civil cases. They want to get rid of the courts. They're hoping to get rid of the courts, and they're kind of giving people the power to make judgments over social media, really. But that's not fair, because you get one or two admins who are pushing buttons and blocking people. Other people might not have minded it, or might have thought it was useful. So it's like an unruly. It's worse than an unruly court. And really, they want to encourage people not to help each other. They don't really want independents and minorities to do well anyway, or even surmount power. it really is to encourage bickering and arguing among each other, just like the working class generally is designed to. I don't know if I want to go into the MOG issue again, because I've already been through it. And I know that MOG is breaking the law. There are various examples of how MOG's breaking the law. To do with the fact that, you know, he's like a light bulb that's turned on the merit of his electors. Obviously, there would be no interest in, you know, having the light bulb in the room. MOG's like a light bulb in a room that's been switched on by someone who's not in the room. But why would you want to have that light bulb in the room? You know, anyway, because they put him there, you know. He wouldn't be there or have an interest in be there if he wasn't an elected person running on the fuel of electoral powers, you know. And once they snuff him out, it's like he's still there. Why? Because GB News have got him on there. Yes, but they passed the baton. He passed the baton from the elector. It's like the electors hand up MOG into the spot and then place him on the pedestal, and then he's staying there in his own evolution now. They don't need the electors. MOG doesn't need electors to exist as a celebrity now. He's running on the power of GB News, right? But, you know, where did he come from? You know, electoral power, you know, but all the other MPs and persons, oh, they've you know, they're gone now. They're snuffed out, disappeared. Yes, but why aren't they all in? No, because this one is going to make a difference. Oh, is he really? Is MOG going to make a difference in the electoral? Well, why else would he be on there? He's in there to cook sausages, is he? No. You know, MOG needs... If, you know, MOG is a flashing red light. And, you know, it's encouraging more people. This is fine. This is okay. Look, I'm doing it. Like what's happening with the funding and the corruption with Sue Hall and all the other online things. They actually know that they've created a mess with the platforms. I think, Clegg, it's like they've designed... You know, Cameron sells off... Cameron sold off the Royal Mail. He's made that illegal now. No, it's illegal to charge for elections. Don't worry, I'll give you it back. It's illegal, but I'll give you it back, you know. They're unruly. They're actually designing chaos. And what they're doing is they've got all these fines, parking tickets, all these rules. Gordon Brown's popping up on TV, still croaking with cobwebs, going, oh, I can solve the economy, I can solve, we need to do this and that. No, Brown, you made a complete tosh of it. They aren't abiding by the rules. And they lie about them, you know. So anyway, I'm supposed to be sending this to the Electoral Commission, but I think I covered most of it. Actually, I did get most of it covered in the first video. I don't think they're going to agree with me, because the Electoral Commission are selected people who either A, are going to help protect the corruption and continue it, or B, they just haven't got the intelligence to properly understand and interpret the law, which is like a lot of candidates now. They're just getting groomed like Ofcom, you know. And the Select Committee in Parliament, Culture, Media and Sport, why aren't the Select Committee doing anything about public meetings online and being illegally broken up and censored? They're doing nothing. It's all criminal. Lucy Fraser, you know, we need some action. No one can afford the private court cases. You know, no one can. You could possibly take these people to court, but you know, we petition about it to Parliament. You know, and even then, you know, I think it definitely is the political parties. They just want to keep in control of the game, and they like the game to be Tory versus Labour, because they love kicking the ball back between each other, and you know, everyone else can watch and tough. That's it.